I just had a baby with the wrong woman. Jess and I have been together for 3 years and now we've started to think about having a baby. She said it was her lifelong dream to be a mother and wanted to be able to be a stay-at-home mom for at least 2 years before working again. I obliged because who was I to deny my wife's wishes? So we tried for a baby, and tried, and tried. We didn't know what was wrong, but I could see it was taking a toll on Jess's mental health. She believed there was something wrong with her, that maybe she was infertile. So we both got tests done to see what the problem was. Except, there was nothing wrong with either of our bodies. This gave Jess new hope and she insisted we try more frequently. There wasn't a day where we didn't try. Now as a man, I know I should be happy to be having intimacy this much, but holding Jess during aftercare every single time made me realize I didn't want this at all. I wasn't ready to be a father. Kids are so much responsibility and because Jess wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, that meant I had to work extra hard to provide for 3 people. Baby things are not cheap in the slightest, and there were so many things I wanted to do with Jess before we did something with this level of commitment. She always talked about seeing the 7 wonders of the world and I always wanted to take her to do that. But this baby puts a halt in those plans. Because I didn't really want to confide in anybody that I knew about these things, I hired a therapist. So for 3 days every week after work, I would go talk to my therapist. She was this woman who carried herself with confidence and I knew she contained so much wisdom in that head of hers. She was only a few years older than me too, so it really impressed me that she could give me all this advice that would help me improve my life. So, after beating around the bush for a week, my therapist told me to just spill it. She knew I was holding something back, the real reason I didn't want this baby. It wasn't the expenses, or the long work hours. No, it went much deeper than that. She wanted to dissect my brain piece by piece and inspect it in a way that would make her understand all my thoughts. I allowed her, of course, because this is what I was paying her to do. Some advice she gave me was to just stop and look. Stop and listen to the world around me. Don't move too quickly or else I might miss the bane of my existence. So I did just that. Whenever I was in a crowded place or I was feeling overwhelmed, I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and listened. I did this several times, and each time, it brought a smile to my face. I felt at ease because I would always see this woman. She had long black hair, a diamond-shaped face, and eyes so brown they resembled the dark void I always found myself in. Just seeing her smile melted my heart. Hell, it could have the ability to melt any cold heart out there. Seeing her was like seeing art displayed in a museum where you're so captivated by it you just stop and stare to admire every single perfection and every little flaw. Seeing her so often made me realize this mysterious woman wasn't so mysterious. Because she had black hair and a diamond face, I chalked it up to it being Jess. But upon closer inspection, I realized it was actually my ex Rachel. I panicked, but when that happened, I was told to stop and look, but that would mean I had to see Rachel, which would cause me to panic. It was a looped cycle. At my next appointment, I told my therapist of my dilemma and she said that's why I can't have this baby with Jess. I'm still attached to Rachel. That's when I realized I wasn't over Rachel as I thought I was, because whenever I looked at anything, I would get random flashes of Rachel with the exact thing I was looking at. I dreaded going home now, wondering what would cause me to slip up, or if I had to tell Jess about it. I never could, not when she was so happy that she was ovulating and we had intimacy, which resulted in her finally getting the baby she wanted. For 9 months, I would have to keep this secret to myself because there was just no way I would tell a pregnant Jess that I was thinking about another woman when we were getting ready to be a family. The guilt never subsided as the months went on, and everything got worse 8 months in. I had decided to skip my therapy session after work one day. I was still in therapy because I needed someone to tell my problems to, since Jess wasn't an option not just because I didn't want to see how she would react, but because she was pregnant and had to deal with her own problems. So, I go to a random bar nowhere near where I live, hoping that an iced drink would help me clear my thoughts. Except when I went up to the bartender, I think I stopped to listen because the woman's face from before appeared in front of me. There was that same warm smile and eyes that were the windows to my soul, leaving me entranced. There was something different this time, though. This time, she spoke. "Hi, how can I help you?" she asked. I blinked, and realized I was actually face to face with Rachel. I kind of stared at her like a fish out of water and she laughed. "Don't be so surprised to see me, Ben," she said. There was no doubt about it. That was Rachel, as I live and breathe. My Rachel. I apologized and ordered my drink. It was a slow night at the bar, so she took the opportunity to sit with me and talk. We reminisced about our time together and talked about what our lives look like now. She's single, but living with her best friend in an apartment she was more than happy to give me the address to. She was radiating and refreshing to see. It wasn't until I blabbed that my wife was having a baby that she suddenly needed to get back to work. I felt dumb for mentioning that, as it ruined our conversation, but I took it as a sign to go home to my wife. I tried my best not to visit Rachel after finding out where she worked, but I didn't try hard enough and I found myself skipping my therapy sessions to be with her. Eventually, we exchanged phone numbers, but I tried not to text her too often because I knew my wife wasn't going to be happy about it. A month later, my wife gave birth, but I wasn't experiencing the joys and miracles of childbirth. Instead, doubt lied deep in me and a bundle of anxiety kept creeping in my stomach. This wasn't right, none of it. The baby was then put into one of those little beds with all their identification on it. Something took over me at that moment and I found myself snapping a picture of the baby. Then I did something stupid. I went to Rachel's contact and sent her the picture along with the message, "It should have been you."